Welcome back, everyone. Lovely to see you. So happy August. We have a new theme for this month. And it is actually more of a practice-oriented theme. And so this month, what we will focus on is mindfulness of the breath and how the breath reverberates into all of our layers of self. And so just as a quick review, the layers of self are the physical body, the energetic body, which is the body that's very much related to the breath, or the layer of the body. The third layer or sheath of our self is the mind. This is where we house emotions and thoughts and planning and memory, even sort of our self-definition of who we are and how we are in the world. The fourth layer or sheath is our wisdom layer. This is where our sort of intuitive sense lives, our wiser self, the self that is really more concerned with the greater good than just personal transformation and personal well-being. It's wise in that sense, in that it always holds an ever-enlarging perspective of what is important in the world. And then the fifth layer of self is our, well, it's joy, it's bliss. It's that recognition that we are a part of something greater, and it is a very joyful recognition. And so we will explore this month how the breath interacts with all of those layers and how we can tune into the breath to help us become more attentive of what's happening in the body, of what's happening in our nervous system, even of the stories that are happening in our mind, so that we ultimately move more toward wisdom and joy, and sort of the truest expression of who we are as human beings and as sentient beings. So that's our theme for August. So there will be quite a bit of focus on breathing, and the movement of energy. All right, so for our opening centering today, we will be on our backs, and you have choices. Like I rolled up a blanket like this, starting with the quarter fold and then just rolling it from the long edge. And it's a nice way of being on your back, because what you do is you sit on the blanket and then you roll your spine out on that blanket, and the head can either be on the blanket with you, or if you prefer more of a heart opening, the head can rest on the floor, and you can experiment with how that feels for you. But you can also just lie flat on the floor without a support under the spine, if it feels like too much to open the heart this early in the day. So yogi's choice. If you do lie flat on the back, you could even think about a blanket or a little pillow under the head, and maybe a little lift under the knees, especially if you tend to have low back issues. And so the main thing is to find a position on your back that feels really comfortable to you. And once you have found a supine position, it feels comfortable and restful, invite your body to just wiggle into that position, maybe just feeling the roots from your physical being growing into the earth at a very figurative sort of level. And making little wiggles and movements so that that sense of grounding becomes even more profound, so that you really feel connected to the supports below you or the earth below you. And always feel free to readjust yourself during the centering so that the body stays restful and has the chance to become at ease. Once you feel as though you can let go through the physical layer of the self, I invite you to bring your attention to your energetic layer of self by attending to your breath. And so this is an invitation to bear witness, to observe the breath. This is not a practice of controlling or directing or altering the breath. Now we know from the laws of physics that anything observed has a tendency to change. And so if that happens to your breath as you observe it, that's perfectly fine. Just observe that. Bear witness to that. There just is no conscious effort at changing the breath. Any change that happens, the breath is doing that by itself. You're not creating it. And this, of course, is actually the amazing thing about the breath, is that it essentially breathes itself. It is not a conscious process. It's a process that happens more than 20,000 times for you every day. And if you don't want to, you have to give it no attention for it to happen. And yet the amazing thing about the breath is that once we do start paying attention to it, we can, if we choose to, influence it, change it. And so it is a point of access to regulating our own nervous system. And so in this moment, as you are bearing witness to your own breath, I invite you to notice how deeply you are breathing in this moment. Again, without altering the breath. With curiosity, just watch how much air is moving in as you inhale and how much air is moving out as you exhale. Now, this is a subjective assessment of how deep or shallow your breath might be in this moment. And as you pay attention to the volume of breath that is moving through you, just notice if that feels like a comfortable volume, as though enough air is traveling in and enough air is traveling out. Bearing witness through the movement of breath or life force through your body. And maybe maintaining some level of awareness of the volume of breath that's moving through you. Begin to draw your direct attention to noticing how long it takes you to breathe in and how long it takes you to breathe out. You can do this by simply observing and sensing the length of the breath. Or if you have a very analytical mind that would like to have a task, you could even count to see how long it takes you to breathe in and how long it takes you to breathe out. That's not a requirement, that's just another way of observing. And again, this is simply an invitation to bear witness. And as you explore the breath in this way, just checking in on how long it takes to inhale and exhale, maybe notice if the inhalation and exhalation seem fairly matched in length, or if one is longer or shorter than the other. And whatever you notice, there's no need to change. You're just watching with curiosity. And then I invite you to hold the volume and the speed of your breath and your awareness, and yet draw your attention now to where you feel the breath in your body. There are lots of places that are affected by the breath, and for some of us, the breath is more evident here or there. And so I'll just name a few places where you can look for the breath. And you might find them most easily in one of those places, or you might actually observe the breath in a completely different location in your own body. So you might locate the breath in the rising and falling of your belly. You might locate the breath in the expansion and contraction of the lower rib cage. You might notice your breath in the expansion and contraction of a major portion of your rib cage. You might notice your breath as cool air in your throat on the inhalation and warm air in your throat on the exhalation. Or you might locate your breath in your nostrils, feeling breath moving in across the little hairs in your nose, maybe cool. And breath moving out through the nostrils, brushing the inside of the nose, perhaps more warmly. Again, moving little hairs. You might even locate the breath in the edges of your body, like a slight tingling or sense of energy in the fingertips or in the toes. Or you might notice it as a general pulsation of an expansiveness in the entire body as you breathe in, and a drawing in as you breathe out. Witness with curiosity where in the body you feel your breath. And then once again, draw your attention to the rate of your breath. How long is it taking you to draw a breath in and to release a breath out? And without expectation for a change, notice whether a change occurred. Does the breath seem slower or faster or the same? You could also check in to notice if the breath feels the same in terms of volume, or did it change? Are you breathing more deeply or more shallowly, or the same? And then allow your breath to fade into the background and sense yourself once again into your body. And notice if you can feel any reverberations of this practice in how you feel in your physical layer of self. Perhaps more grounded and rooted, or maybe less grounded or rooted. Maybe something shifted in the comfort level in your body. Or maybe there's no notable change. You're simply curious, checking in. And then before you move anywhere, I invite you to have a mental image of rolling yourself to your right side and then pressing yourself to a seat. Sort of mentally reviewing how that process will unfold for you. And then when you feel physically ready to do it, you can initiate that journey to your right side, maybe resting there for a moment if that feels appropriate, and ultimately to a seat. And once you have found a seat again, I invite you to either bring your hands to your thighs or to place your palms together at your heart and bow your head to heart center. And maybe from this place of having borne witness to your own breath and its reverberations in your body, invite an intention for your time on the mat today. With your next inhalation, seal that intention into your own heart. And with a breath out, send it out into your world. And then release your hands and lift your focus. And if you had any props on your mat, this might be a good time to remove them. We will come to tabletop. Kneel on your blanket. If you have sensitive wrists, you can be on your fists rather than the palms of your hand. You can also change positions for the hands as we practice. And as you come into tabletop, just notice whether you can align yourself so that the wrists, whether you're on your fists or on your palms, are directly under the shoulders, and that the knees are directly under the hips, so that you're making a nice strong shape here. That kind of resembles a little table, but it's a table that has a little bit of a bow in it because, you know, your lumbar spine has a little bow in it, and we don't want to straighten that. Now, tabletop is a beautiful place to explore yet another dimension of the breath, which is the fact that our breath actually has 4 parts. And so as we inhale, I invite you to let the belly drop toward the floor. The head might rise slightly, and then notice that there's a little pause, a little resting spot in the breath before you are inclined to exhale. And then with the exhale, draw the belly in, make a nice cat arch with your back, and notice if there's a little resting place for you in the breath before you inhale. And then flow through this cat and cow, inhaling, into cow, letting the belly descend, holding, and then exhaling, drawing the belly in and the back up, letting the head move last, holding for a moment as the breath stills. And when you feel the urge to inhale, move back into cow, hold. And so we're not exaggerating the breaks in the breath. You're simply observing how long that break lasts, and then you let the inhale and exhale naturally dictate when you again begin to move. Your body tends to be happiest here if you let the movement initiate from the region of the belly button, so that as you draw the belly button in toward the spine and arch, you come into cat. And then as the belly relaxes, belly button moves toward the floor, you come into cow. So you're moving from the center of your physical being here, and you're letting the breath guide the movement and the speed of the movement. The next time you have been in cat, simply return to neutral rather than coming back into cow, and we will all meet in neutral. Now from here, place one hand down and unweight the other. So let's all start with the left hand on the mat. The right hand has no weight. We will move once again with the breath. We will open ourselves up as we inhale. And then as we exhale, we slide that arm through the opening on the left, but without touching the shoulder down. So we will continue to flow, inhaling, lifting the right arm up, exhaling and sliding the right arm through the opening on the left. Moving again with the breath, and maybe even here, you can notice if there is a little pause at the top and the bottom of the breath where you hold just long enough until the urge occurs to either inhale or exhale. Do that 2 more times, and then we'll once again meet in neutral tabletop. And then when you feel ready, you can reverse sides now, inhaling the left arm up and sliding it through the opening on the right. And never disconnecting here from the breath. Let the breath guide the movement. Inhale to open up the body. And exhale to draw inward. That is the flow of your breath, or the energetic nature of your breath. There's an opening or activation as you inhale, and there's a drawing inward and calming as you exhale. Do that 2 more times at your own speed. And then we will all meet yet again in tabletop. Sweet. So that was a little bit of a twisting motion for the spine. And now we'll take a little bit of a side stretch into the spine, again flowing with the breath. I need to turn around or I'll hit my wall. This time, what we will do is as we breathe, actually let me do it to this side. As we breathe out, we stretch the left arm ahead of the right and the right leg behind the left. So it's a nice sort of long side stretch. And then switch sides. Inhale up, rest, exhale, slide into the side stretch. Again, moving at your own pace and holding perhaps for a moment at the top and the bottom of the breath. Continue on for 2 or 3 more times as you move in this way. A very luxurious side stretch. And then let's meet once again in tabletop. Now from here, I invite you to have your blocks handy at the top of your mat. And have mine on the highest setting. We will pulse a little bit with the breath in lunge. So to have a nice open heart in a lunge, I prefer to have my and step your right foot forward so that it's directly inside of the here, like this. And then yogi's choice. You can have the back knee on the floor, or you can curl the left toes under and lift that left leg up. You can also start in one position and then change after a while, depending on how things feel for you today. We will hold this lunge for a while, so you might want to be on your fists here, if that's better for your wrists. But you also don't have to have a lot of weight in your hands, right? Theoretically, you should almost be able to lift the hands away from the blocks. So the weight bearing is really in your legs. And then here we will once again move with the breath, only the movement will be really subtle. You might not even be able to see it in my body. I'll try to exaggerate it for a few rounds, but then I'll move with my own breath. And so as you inhale here, there will be a slight lifting of the hips away from the earth and a slight opening in the heart. As you exhale, there's a slight pulsing downward toward the earth. And maybe if you feel the 4-part breath, there's a little holding point at the top and the bottom of the breath. And again, you can be on your knee here if that feels better for you. You can get the same pulsing action even if the back leg is on the knee. And if that's still too much, you can also pulse Again, in tabletop, just rolling the hips back and forth. And so this is a bit of an exercise in patience too, because we have a tendency to want to move quickly, but today we are moving in the rhythm of the breath, and the breath may be slowing down more and more as we move through the practice. And so your movements might become slower, which actually invites isometric holds in your muscles and is quite strength building. Now let that pulsation stop. And then with your next exhalation, straighten the forward leg any amount. And then as you inhale, pulse forward back to a bent knee and an open heart. And now that's the rhythm that you're taking. Exhaling into a version of pyramid pose, maybe pausing here. Inhaling into your lunge. Once again, paying attention to the 4-part breath. And maybe remaining sensitive to how long your breathing takes now, whether it's slowing down or speeding up. And maybe even being sensitive to how much volume you're moving. Are you breathing more deeply, or is the breath becoming shallow? And then noticing what that means for your body. And then the next time you exhale, stay forward in your lunge. And I didn't show the knee down variation, but the knee down variation is like this. And this time, again, knee down or straight leg. This time, as you breathe out, you will bring your hips to one side. I started on the right. As you breathe in, you come to center. As you breathe out, you turn a little bit to the left with your hip. Breathe in, rise up. Breathe out, in, out. Yeah. I'll show this from the front too, in case that's easier to see. And then the next time you have been to the left and are back at center, if your knee is not already on the ground, drop the knee to the ground, step the right knee to the left. If you want to, you can keep the hands on the blocks and take sort of a little bit of almost somewhere between a puppy and a child's pose stretch. Just letting the spine be nice and long, the hips move toward the feet. Feel a little bit of stretch in the spine before we move to the other side. And then after your next exhalation, with an inhalation, rise up and step the left foot forward. And you can either be on the knee or you can curl the toe under and lift the right leg away from the floor. Your own body will tell you what feels right for you today. And then as you inhale, there's that slight pulsation away from the earth. And as you exhale, there's a slight pulsation toward the earth. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Maybe noticing the 4 parts of the breath and having a bit of a hold at the bottom and a bit of a hold at the top. letting the movement in the body be initiated by the breath. Do that a couple more times. And then after your next exhalation, take a pause. And whenever you will exhale again, straighten the forward knee. Back leg can be up, or the back knee can be down. Inhaling into a lunge. Exhaling into pyramid. Noticing the pauses at the top and bottom, holding the pose with the pause. But not forcing the breath to follow the shape of the body, but instead allowing the breath to invite the movement and the holding. And as you continue to flow 2 or 3 more times, tune into the rate of your breathing and the volume of the breath, the amount of breath you're moving. And then with both legs straight, come to rest. And then let's come into the pivoting motion. So with the out breath, pivot the hips to the left. With the in breath, bring them back to center. With your next out breath, pivot the hips to the right. Yeah. It's kind of like a little combination of a twist and a side bend, but what it does is it opens up the hamstrings, the big muscles in the back of your leg. And you'll notice as you pivot to one side, you'll feel this stretch more on one side of the back of the leg. And as you go to the other side, the other part of the hamstring gets stretched. So it's a nice way of opening the backs of the legs. And it's a beautiful way of combining breath and movement. Stay attached to observing the flow of breath. And then the next time you have pivoted to the right, come to center, bring the back knee down, step the forward knee back to meet the right, and remove your blocks. And then come to your forearms on your mat and interlace your fingers, placing the forearms on the mat and lifting the hand just enough so that the little fingers pop off the mat, but the wrist stays grounded. The bone that's on the mat now is your ulna. The ulna makes the elbow and it runs to the little finger. And so the grounding in this pose is through the ulna, not through the wrist. So it's at the center of the forearm on the floor. And when you press into that spot, you start feeling really powerful and it really integrates your shoulder girdle. So I call it the sweet spot because it's kind of a nice place to find your strength here and your power. Your toes are curled under, and then we're just gonna move back and forth with the breath. So breathing out, bring the hips toward the feet, and breathing in, bring the shoulders forward over the elbows, maybe even toward the forearms. And let the breath take you through this movement, noticing again the tops, the pauses at the top and the bottom. This is a really, really nice therapeutic move for your shoulders, by the way. It's called shoulder flossing. And it's very healthy for the shoulder joint when you do it nice and gentle with the breath like this. And so just like you floss your teeth every day, this is a nice move to do every day for your shoulders. The next time you have exhaled and drawn your hips toward the feet, keep the hips back like that. Reconnect to the sweet spot on your ulna and press into the floor from that place so that the hips lift up and the knees lift up, so that you're like in a downward dog on your forearms. So this is called dolphin pose. And breathe here in dolphin pose. If this is too much, you can always come back to the knees and be in your dolphin on the knees. And then notice what is happening to the breath when we're in this half inversion. And how is the breath reverberating into the body when we're here? Maybe notice even the texture of your breath. Noticing if the breath is maybe becoming a little choppier here, a little dysregulated, or if it continues to flow smoothly. Just witnessing. If you need to transition to the knees, you can do that anytime. It's a long hold. And then with your next inhalation, come forward, release the knees down, and take a child's pose. If your head doesn't reach the ground, you might want to take a block and place it under the forehead so that you have support, or you could bring your forearms together, stacked on top of each other, and maybe bring the forehead to your forearms. Find a way to let your head ground on something. And then in this short restorative child's pose, notice where you feel the breath in the body. And you might notice that the breath is traveling more into the back of the body now, that you're resting on your thighs, unless you went into a widening child's pose, in which case the breath might still be in the belly. So just notice. With your next inhalation, draw the hands under the shoulders and then press into the floor to lift yourself back up into tabletop. You can repeat dolphin pose if that's better for your wrists. Or you can come with me into a downward dog, which dolphin prepared us for. And so I invite you to bring your hands about a hand length distance ahead of the shoulders. From here, press into the hands now without dumping your weight into the wrists, but bringing the weight more into the pads of the fingers and the fingers themselves. And make that your sweet spot. And then press the hips back, just like we did when we moved toward dolphin. The toes are curled under. And don't think about lifting yet, just stretch back. In fact, with the inhale, come forward for a moment. and then stretch back again. And about a quarter of the way away from your heels, start pressing into the hands so much that the hips just naturally want to lift up. And release into a downward dog. You can stay on the knees and take a downward dog variation on the knees. And then as you're in this half inversion, once again, tune into the breath. Feel your power in this downward dog. You might notice if the breath has changed texture, or volume, or rate. Let the exhalation guide you toward a nice, strong core, drawing the pelvic floor up, drawing the navel toward the spine. That's a natural movement with the exhalation. So we're quite powerful at that point of exhaling when all of those deep core muscles are right on board with drawing in and being strong. If you would like a little bit more here, with your inhalation, come forward into plank. And then flow between down dog and plank, inhaling into plank and exhaling into dog. You can do this on the knees or on the feet. Maybe you can actually tap into your 4-part breath. Holding plank during the pause at the top of the breath, holding down dog at the pause of the bottom of the breath. At any point, you can come to the knees, you can always rest in child's pose, or you can also choose to breathe in either down dog or plank pose. Always tapping into your strength that's holding you up as you exhale. One more time into plank. And then the next time you're in down dog, stay there. With your next exhalation, release the knees to the floor. Find a seat on your heels, and then release the hips to one side so that you can swing the legs around and scoot yourself to the top of the mat. From here, stretch your arms out to roll down one vertebra at a time, or bring them behind you to walk yourself down. Yogi's choice. And as you work your way to the floor here, maintain awareness, maintain attention actually of the breath. And then once you've arrived on the floor, walk your feet mat width apart. The knees are bent. And then as you exhale, bring both knees to the left. As you inhale, bring the knees upright. As you breathe out, go to the left. And then that's your rhythm. Again, moving with your breath, exhaling the knees down, inhaling the knees up, and switching sides each time. And as you take this very calming windshield wiper pose, once again, become aware of the rhythm of your breath. Can you feel the pauses at the top of the bottom? Can you be aware of the texture? Is the breath smooth or choppy? Soft or forceful? What is the rate of the breath? Has the length changed of either the inhalation or the exhalation or the rest breaks in the breath? The next time you bring your knees up from having been on the right side, keep them upright. And then with an exhalation, draw the knees into the body, maybe giving them a nice big hug if that feels okay. And then wiggle your spine long. I like to walk my hips away from the shoulders here to create a lot of length in my spine. And then just notice what else your body might like here. Maybe some circles with the knees, maybe a happy baby, maybe some supine twists, whatever your body sort of wants to express, just let that happen. And then when you feel ready, you can settle your body into stillness, coming into your preferred resting position. You could once again bring a blanket under the spine, or you could lie flat on the ground, maybe with a pillow under the head or a support under the knees, or any other sort of final resting shape that feels comfortable to you. And once you have found your final resting shape, if it feels appropriate for you, you might decide to close your eyes. Once again, perhaps wiggle yourself into the earth as you invite the body to release, to let go, to surrender. Letting the weight of the body draw you into the earth, surrendering to gravity. And then invite the breath to become easeful, relaxed. And trust that the breath will breathe itself. Surrendering the breath to the flow of prana, of life force, all around you. Let go even of the witnessing of your breath. And then invite your mind to become still. Which doesn't mean that there won't be thoughts or memories or planning or this or that pops up. It simply means that you won't attach to those thoughts. You will notice that they're there, and then you'll release them like soap bubbles in the air that you know will pop on their own. And then as you let go of the body, as you let go of the breath, and as you let go of the mind, I invite you into a few minutes of silence. Gently allow your senses to draw outward, taking in the sounds around you. Noticing perhaps the air on your skin. Maybe noticing scents or aromas in the air around you. And if you're so inclined, you could even open the eyes to take in your surroundings visually. And then invite the body to wiggle itself awake. Maybe stretching long or making small intuitive movements. Whatever feels right for the physical layer of yourself in this moment. And perhaps invite a nice conscious breath. And then transition yourself to your right side. Maybe taking a breath here if that feels appropriate for you. And then gently begin your journey to a seat. And once you've found a seat, you can have your hands resting on your thighs, or you can bring your palms together at your heart. Bow your head to heart center. Reconnect to the intention that you set at the beginning of practice today. And notice if that intention is one that you want to carry into your world with you as we close our practice, or invite a new intention to emerge that you will take off the mat. Consciously feel your breath one more time. You might feel your chest expanding toward your thumbs if your hands are at your heart. Thank you so much for practicing with me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. And take good care.